Dawson X with the Shade Detectives here. What is going on? Listen, as I promised you, I will be getting into several pots of tea and several trees of shade. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be giving my take on this whole Monique, D.L. Hughley comic battle that's going on right now. So, this weekend, when I turned on the television, when I turned on my phone, when I turned on my computer, just like everyone else, this was trending on the blogs. Monique showed her in Detroit because she was upset about another injustice that took place with her and her set. This time, it was D.L. Hughley. Now, D.L. Hughley, he's been getting into his own stuff lately. He's been on the television. He's been in the blogs as well for just inserting himself into situations. Now, more recently, he was getting into it with Kanye West over the Kim K bullying and husband stalking that was going on. And he was upset with Kanye and then getting threatened and punking out. And so now we see him going at it with Monique. Now, apparently, there's a show that they were both invited to perform, and they are both well-known comedians. We, as the younger audience, probably is not as familiar with their stand-up. They may see their sitcoms in syndication, but their stand-up is more of a 90s thing. It's more of a early 90s thing, late 2000s thing. But they both are comedians, and they both are close with Ricky Smiley, who is known for his 90s character that he created on BET Comic View, Lil Daryl. Ricky Smiley created the Lil Daryl character and really got the circuit of comedians really united. So he had a show called New Day. It took place this weekend in Detroit. And if you look at the set list, if you look at the itinerary, and this was something I believe D.L. Hughley posted in defense to, I guess, confirm that he was, I guess, the headliner. So basically, if you look down, you see that D.L. Hughley's name on the show schedule is last, and Monique's name is right before his. Now, this is what the entire beef between Monique and D.L. Hughley, this is how it spilled out onto the actual stage in Detroit that night. So apparently Monique felt as if her name should have been somewhere else on the list, and it wasn't, and so she snapped.
Said that a bitch is the headliner. The headliner. Let me say it again. The headliner. That's what the motherfucking contract says. Monique is to be the last motherfucking person on the goddamn stage. She is the headliner. That's what I signed the fuck up for. I'm 30 plus years in this motherfucking business, and I don't open for no goddamn body. The contract said the headliner. The contract said the headliner. The contract said the headliner. But a nigga named D.L. Hughley turned into a bitch and said, I won't perform if she does that. I won't go out if she does that. Nigga, you open for the kings of comedy. I close for the queens of comedy, nigga. And you think because I don't have a dick, that ain't my position, nigga.
They might look like the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but they are not. These are the queens of comedy. And right over there, that's Monique. She was a lot bigger back then, but she was still beautiful, and you can tell that it's her. Now, she was the headliner of this very popular tour, which means that she was the most comical out of all of the women, and she was the one that the audience anticipated to see the most. She was the headliner. So this gives her a certain amount of clout. So I can imagine her feeling like, when I step into a situation like a comedy show, and I'm going against these other comedians, or I'm on a stage with these other comedians, I'm going to be the headliner. So when we look at D.L. Hughley and the Kings of Comedy, he actually was the opening act. So that means that, he may not have been the draw of the crowd. I believe that Bernie Mac was the ultimate king of comedy, and he was very funny. And I do remember this show. Bernie Mac was the funniest one. D.L. Hughley was not funny at all. In fact, unpopular opinion, I do not like D.L. Hughley's humor at all. And I don't see how he would be an effective headliner, so I can see why Monique was so upset.
Nigga, we got a history. That nigga went on a tour talking about all Monique wasn't. You can Google it right now. D.L. Hughley on Monique, all I wasn't, what I wasn't worth, all of this bullshit, and nigga, you put your feet under my motherfucking table. So you came to my home, nigga, and you put your feet under my motherfucking table. I don't get down like that, goddammit. You got a bitch wrong. You talk about Young Thug, and cause of their names, nigga, your name is DL. What the fuck does it stand for? Hey, how far you bending over, nigga, on the DL?
Now, that was a bit harsh, but Monique had some reasons to be frustrated. She was actually referring to the campaign that D.L. Hughley did to basically speak against Monique's 2018 efforts to boycott Netflix. D.L. Hughley did not feel like Monique was entitled to that privilege. Monique was upset about that. She had more to say.
What kind of real nigga is that? That's a bitch nigga. That's a bitch nigga. What kind of real nigga would ever attack a goddamn black woman? A bitch nigga. I feel sorry for D.L. Hughley's family. I feel sorry for his motherfucking wife, because how do you suck the dick of a coward? I tried to play fair, bitch. I tried to play fair, nigga.
Now, she ran across that stage like she was in the church. Okay? Now, she really came at his manhood right there, because she feels as if men are coming against her, disrespecting her for having a strong king on her shoulder. And they just upset, and they disrespecting her, and they bitch made, and they cowards, and they still deserve to get by their wife.
Would you rather? Would you rather? I said, fuck it, let's go. And then the sister Jasmine says, would you rather your husband fuck Lee Daniels without a condom, or Corinne Steffens with one? I want y'all to hear the bitch shit this nigga that tried to put me through, y'all. Would you rather your husband fuck, like, nigga, what kind of shit are you putting over the air to your motherfucking listeners? That's coon shit. So be careful who's feeding your motherfucking soul, because you might swallow coon pie and you can't get the coon off of you, and it'll give you goddamn diarrhea. I don't fuck with nobody, but don't fuck with me.
Now, that was a straw that broke the camel's back for me. She really was upset that they were disrespecting her husband, Sidney, yet again. Now, after she did this whole show, condemning D.L. Hughley for taking her spot, for being rude to her, and then condemning her husband, it went all over social media. Everyone was doing stories on it. Everyone has been doing takes on it. Now DL Hughley has something to say.
You tried to turn that audience against me. You tried to burn everything down. Like you do all the time. Who calls Netflix and thinks I can get $10 million because I did the Queens of Comedy? Who thinks you can get on stage and still live off that? I was a king of comedy. You never hear me talking about it because in this business, like any other, it isn't what you have done, it's what you do. That show was one I signed on to do. I made the quintessential mistake, the horrible mistake that like Tyler Perry, like Lee Daniels, like Oprah, like all these people of saying yes to you. And it is an occupational hazard. It is my fault. I have learned my lesson. You didn't just, and the thing that bothers me the most isn't the things that you said, because I know who I am and I know what I do. And I have a pristine reputation. Everybody who knows me know what I'm about. It's this whole, my dear, my babies, I love you for real, which is so transparently false, it is ridiculous. But the thing that was really the most annoying, the thing that was really the most bothersome, is after a terrible couple of weeks where people were being slain in Buffalo, where people were being slain, kids were getting slain in school, and people had come to a comedy show to get away from all of their problems, you besieged them with yours. The one contract that isn't in dispute is the one that the audience had with us to entertain them. But every single time, more and more, you spend half of your time talking about your grievances and what you didn't get and who did this to you. Listen, when you burn things up and you sit back to watch the results of them, she's literally set that stage on fire, said the most incendiary things ever, and I had to go on stage. She has the temerity to call me a coward. A coward would have left. A coward would have said, I can't go. You didn't even want to go on when you had a contract that you knew that not to be true. You made up this whole narrative that you knew not to be true, and you played that out in front of the audience. And then I had to go on behind you. And you know what you did? You sat back and you tried to watch your damage. You set the stage on fire and you watched what you've done. You know who does that? Arsonists do that. Arsonists set shit on fire and try to see the damage it was. But I blame myself because I know now what I didn't before. Saying yes to you is an occupational hazard, one I will not repeat. I don't blame you. I wish you well. But when you do the things you do, when everything's about you, when you're vitriolic, when you have all these fights and all of these entities, it is you. Precious was not a movie. Precious was an autobiography. That is who you are, literally. You mad at the contract you and daddy wrote, your daddy? And I don't know why you call a man daddy and you pay for him. That's a son.
Not the son, my dear. I mean, Monique. He said that that's the son. Listen, that was a shot heard. So you know he had more to say, right? You know he had more to say.
And she proceeds to eviscerate me. Not just me, but Steve Harvey, the sexual, my wife, my dog later on in subsequent conversation. Let me ask you something. What did any of that have to do with an alleged contract dispute? What did Steve Harvey have to do with your contract? What did I have to do with your contract? What did my dog have to do with your contract? What does my wife have to do with your contract? You wrote your contract.
Oh, God.
Your daddy. You proceeded to say things that were so patently insulting that it was galling. It was galling. You asked in subsequent conversations why I have a dog, a support dog. What kind of person has a support dog?
Not the goddamn dog.
Because my father died. My children and family decided they would get a dog from where he was from, and I named the dog after my father. I don't have a dog to keep people away from me. I have a dog, so I have my father with me all the time. That is an act of love that you know very little about. You proceeded to assault my sexuality. You have the temerity to assault someone's sexuality, a man's sexuality, given who you lay next to. None of that had anything to do with alleged contract dispute. You could have taken that up with a lawyer. You would have gotten out. You could have not gone on stage, but you knew you didn't have a valid contract, and you do what you always have done. You tried to weaponize black femininity.
Okay, DL. Okay, I got you, brother. I got you. Oh yeah, I got you. Because Monique, you see, you've been crying, my sister, my lover, my brother, my friend. You done met your match. He's crying about dead dogs and dads, and my dog is my dad, and my dad is my dog. Now, You might be getting a black audience with the my sister, I'm hood, my brother. But when that man starts talking about my dead dog is my dad, and my dad is... That's the stuff that the white people eat up. Like fried chicken at their black neighbor's house. I'm telling you, they're going to eat that up. He's talking about dead dogs and being his dad. And his dog died, and it's his dad. Like that, the white people love that. So Monique, you really need to get your ducks in order. Put your ducks in a row, because I believe that comedians are coming after you, baby girl. They don't like that you aligning and that you are moving up. And they're still hateful about some of your ways and how you're able to, get over on certain things. So they coming for you. Now, Monique, her and Sydney, they did do a YouTube live where they seemingly addressed everything that has been going on the blogs. And they even referenced some of DL's argumentation. But for the most part, what I took away from it is that she and Sydney are really good at downplaying what they do when they be in a element.
Because I want y'all to watch how people like D.L. Hughley will throw smoke and mirrors to try to distract from what it really is. If you watch the video of what I said, if you watch that video, I didn't say anything insulting in reference to that man's family, nor his beautiful wife. What I said is I feel sorry for your family. I feel sorry for your wife. Now, the other part that I said, y'all know what it was, and I'm going to leave it on the stage.
But to be specific, without being specific, you essentially said, I feel sorry for your wife having to perform a sexual act on a coward.
That's exactly.
How do you perform a sexual act on a coward? There is nothing that was said about your wife.
Nothing.
Your family.
Nothing.
It was directed specifically.
Now be quiet, Sydney. Sydney, be quiet now. See, this is where they do this whole... They do something, they throw a rock, then they take the rock back and say, it wasn't really a rock, it was a motherfucking cotton ball. No, baby. The disrespect that you played on this family was because you disrespected the family's head top by saying the wife sucked the dick of a coward. Like, that is disrespect. I mean, it's funny, but it's also funny the way that they play it, because this is what people do to us all the time. They do something, then they play it off like, I ain't mean it like that. So it's funny to see, but I have to admit it comes off as a bit dishonest. Does DL get off scot-free in this situation? I'm not so sure that he does. I mean, I feel like you're not that funny. I feel like if I were Monique and you were the headliner instead of me, I would feel like something was wrong, because you're not that funny, man. And Monique is funnier. And I could see that audience gravitating to Monique more. But that's just me. I don't know how anybody else feels about your comedy, but to me, you're worse than Kevin Hart. And I don't like Kevin Hart's comedy. I feel like he's corny. I feel like you're corny. I don't like it. So I don't understand why you would have been a headliner over Monique unless you complained about it. And I'm sure that there are a lot of complaints that Monique receives. Now, Monique got some backlash from Vivica Fox as well. Like, Vivica Fox did not she was on the Wendy show, and she did not agree with the way that Monique handled the situation. Monique did address Vivica Fox in her YouTube live as well, and basically said that Vivica Fox doesn't really understand the struggle that Monique is going through. She doesn't really understand, so she doesn't really have a place to speak on what she's experiencing. So what we are seeing, very similarly to other cancellations that happened with other comics just recently, and I might get into that a little bit more in another episode of the Shade Detectives, but we're seeing the cancel culture of primetime television now speaking on it, and they're condemning it. They're trying to get people to pick a side. Are you for Monique? Are you against Monique? And Vivica Fox seems to be against the actions that Monique took that night. There are other comedians that are taking a stand against Monique as well and siding with DL Hughley. Another comedian that said that Monique seems to be an egomaniac was Lunel, however you say her name. Honestly, I think she's a little funny, but I have not watched one of her stand-ups. So I think I seen her in a movie or something, and she was all right. But she said that Monique is an egomaniac, and she thinks that, she shouldn't have done that. So, Hollywood has their picks of black comedians that they will use to be the mouthpiece to speak against our black comics. So Lonell, she has some words for Monique, and Vivica has some words for Monique, and we will probably see some other comedians take a stand against Monique as well, because this is, yet again, another comic facing off against a comic, and it's causing the black community to pick a side and to choose one comic over the other, as if we can't just choose both. I personally think that Monique, your humor has changed a lot. And you really need to focus on the roots of what made you funny in the beginning. Now, I do understand the injustices that have taken place in your career, but I believe that this is beginning to offset your talent. You are not really seen as a comic anymore. You're seen as a spokesperson for the injustices that you experience. So I do agree with DL in his attempt to, I guess, chastise you for not doing the job correctly. I can understand that. But on the other hand, he's envious because you have all this talent that you may not be channeling the way that you should. Nonetheless, it's still more appealing than his comedy at its best, because I really don't find DL funny at all. A lot of times the actors and the comics that are not that good at it, they're a stickler to the rules because they have to abide by the rules, or else they wouldn't be able to have much leverage because they don't have much talent. So I feel like DL, you may just fit that category a little bit. You might be hating on Miss Monique. She might have a temper, but I think you might be hating. So that is the end. What do you guys think? How do you feel? Do you think that DL was wrong for what he did? Are you siding with Monique and the injustices that keep on knocking on her door? Do you think she's causing them? Or do you think that there's forces that are coming against her? I want to talk more about subjects of the comedians, so I may do that. I'm sorry if this air conditioner is loud. I'm going to turn it off for the next video. It's just hella hot. It's summer. This is Dawson X 10-4.